Well, isn't this transfer window hotting up a little bit? After a couple of weeks of almost nothing, Anthony Gordon's come in. Now it looks like Jonjo Shelvey might be going out. Possibly someone coming in to replace him. We don't know yet, but it is all kicking off in the last couple of days of this transfer window. And we're going to talk about Shelvey. We're going to talk about who could come in to replace Shelvey. So make sure you stick around for more transfer talk. Welcome back to Black White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. If you are new to Black White Banter, or if you're not new, if you're one of our current lovely subscribers, please drop down, give us one of them. Little thumbs up goes a very long way, gets us in that algorithm, makes all these videos worth it. Get us across all social media where we post jokey video and photo content every single day, and we are booming on there at the moment. And if you like my opinion by the end of this video, whack that subscribe. Now, I always promised myself I wouldn't be one of those Newcastle YouTubers who posts about every single transfer rumour. And I never will, and I still haven't done that. But when things pick up pace a little bit and are quite significant, that's when I will jump on and talk about this transfer window. So it looked like very little was happening. Looked like very little was happening at all. And then suddenly, boom, just like that, things have changed quite considerably. Anthony Gordon's come in, as we've already talked about. Please drop down and check out my thoughts on that and what sort of player he is and what he's going to bring to the team. But one that's maybe come out of nowhere a little bit, well, maybe some people expected him to go, Jonjo Shelvey. Good old Jonjo, one of our trusted oldest members of the team in the camp. Second in command before Trippier to Lascelles for captaincy before Trippier came in, I believe. I don't know whether he's maybe third in the pecking order for the club now for captaincy. Nottingham Forest have come in. You know what Nottingham Forest are like. They've already taken Chris Wood off us. I think Shelvey would be their 56th, what feels like the 56th, 57th signing since they've been in the Premier League. They're desperately trying to stay in the division this year, and it looks like he might be moving now. Nothing's picked up pace too much, but rumours are now suggested from different media outlets that he is quite keen on the move, and this may happen quite quickly. You know, the window shuts on Tuesday night, the night of our Southampton game. It's sad. That's my first thought when I hear Shelvey going, more so because he's one of them Newcastle players you have the attachment to. He's part of the furniture at Newcastle now. Came in under Steve McLaren. That's how long ago it was since he came in. The Steve McLaren season. And yeah, he's been nothing but good to us, really. Yes, he's been up and down form-wise in his time at Newcastle, it's fair to say. We've seen him pick out so many fantastic passes like we know he can. We've seen him score some great goals. But it's probably getting to the time now where this is probably a good move for all parties, if I'm being totally honest with you. Now, Jonjo Shelvey is someone for me who was quite unlucky this season. Now, if you cast your memory back to the summer, our Austrian summer camp, Austria and Germany, I think we played in, Jonjo Shelvey made sure he was the fittest man in that squad. He spent all summer in the gym. His body fat percentage dropped because it was reported in the media. He was his lowest ever body percentage. And when we watched the pre-season games back on the Nufc TV, when we watched them live from Austria, he looked fit as a fiddle. He was here, he was there, he was everywhere. And that's because he knew he had a job on to get in this team. And he was so keen to impress and make sure he was starting for Newcastle this season. And then he picked up an injury. And I honestly believe Eddie Howe at that point at the start of the season, watching him in them pre-season matches, had full intention of him being one of his starters this year. Genuinely, or at least pushing for them starting positions. And it's just been unfortunate. And then he started to get back to fitness and he's picked up another injury more recently. So when he came back into the team, we were flying and he was always going to struggle to get back in. And then he's picked up this second injury. That thrown on top of this activation clause in his contract, if he plays a couple more games, I think it might be another 9 matches, he gets a year contract added on automatically. Eddie Howe's probably looking at that thinking, he's on the fringes already, he's not getting much game time, do we really want to do that? Shelvey apparently is going to be offered a 2.5-year deal from Nottingham Forest, so again it would make sense from a financial point of view for him and his family. He's getting longer financial security, a longer footballing contract in the latter stage of his career. When you're in your 30s as a footballer, you don't want to keep floating around. You want that solidarity with your family. You want to be settled in an area. I've got no doubts about it. Jonjo Shelvey absolutely adores Newcastle and doesn't want to move. In an ideal world, he would be starting for us every week. But it just doesn't look that way. And I think it is just circumstance. I think Shelvey, how he started that pre-season, as fit as he was, would have been a top performer for us in those first 4 or 5 matches. I've got no doubts about that. That didn't happen. We started the campaign off to a fly with our Willock, Joelinton, Bruno combination, and then obviously Longstaff in the mix as well. And he's never really got a look in since. He really hasn't, and he's going to struggle to meet that. Now, from a playing perspective, I also believe Jonjo Shelvey isn't as suited to our playing style as he once was. Jonjo Shelvey is not the sort of midfielder who's going to press as much as Eddie Howe would like. He's not going to press like Longstaff. He hasn't got the work rate of him. He hasn't got the aggressive intensity of Joelinton, that box-to-box aggression that we absolutely love with Joelinton. He also doesn't have the versatility of someone like Joelinton. We know Jonjo Shelvey is the sort of midfielder. He likes to sit, he likes to spread a ball. We are not even the team anymore that likes to see those long passes played. We aren't. We really aren't. Once over we maybe were when we were playing a little bit more counter-attack, when we were trying to get the ball up the other end of the pitch when we were sitting in. We are a possession team now, and I personally don't think it's as suited to Jonjo Shelvey as what we were a year ago. So that would kind of put Shelvey in the category of a holding midfielder, a defensive midfielder. That's not his strong point in my opinion. That's not what you want from a player like him. He's always been a little bit risky in the tackle. His work rate defensively has always been a little bit questionable. He would argue that that's a harsh sort of stigma and stereotype attached to him, but when I've watched him in the flesh at St James's Park many a times before, he's not the greatest in that defensive role. So I think he's kind of fallen down that, and Eddie Howe's a smart enough man to know that that's maybe the case, that he's not fitting into that plan and that vision that he has for this football team, and he's not going to see as much game time for that. Don't forget, you've got Elliot Anderson coming through, you've got Sean Longstaff, like I say, playing out of his skin to a degree with his work rate on the field and how important he's been for us. Joelinton, Willock, Bruno. It makes sense for all parties, and it's more the sentimental sort of part of me as a Newcastle fan that's sad to see him go, because it's Jonjo, he's ours, he's been here for 6 years, he's part of the furniture, we love him, he's a bit of a shithouse at times, which we love. He's scored many a good goal. Obviously he started this whole revolution with that free kick goal at Leeds at the start of the year, at the start of 2022, to really kickstart Eddie Howe's time at Newcastle. But it just makes sense for all parties now. The big question that it falls on next is, does Eddie Howe replace him? Do we have anyone lined up? You've got to be a bit of give and take. If we're being offered some money for Jonjo Shelvey, which we're not expecting it to be huge, but we don't know yet, that hasn't been sort of leaked from or rumoured from any media outlets yet, that does leave us a little bit short in midfield. Eddie Howe will know that. It really does. If Bruno picks up a knock, he hurt his ankle a couple of weeks ago, you're then looking at, right, who can play in the central midfield? Right, so we move Joelinton in and maybe play like your Maximins or your Gordons now. That's another argument with Anthony Gordon coming in. Does Eddie Howe think that we are okay in that central midfield area? Because Joelinton can come central, and then you've got a couple of options on the left-hand side. Maybe that's his logic. Now, all the reports are suggesting that we are looking for a loan player. Berge from Sheffield United, he's been linked tonight from Craig Hope. He is a highly rated Norwegian international from Sheffield United. I haven't watched much of him play because I don't watch much of the Championship, but there's a lot of teams sniffing around him, and if I'm being totally honest from reading, I'd be very surprised if Sheffield United let him go on loan, which is what we've been linked with. Fulham have been sniffing amongst a couple of other Premier League clubs, and Sheffield United are not in a great financial position. He was left out of the FA Cup squad against Wrexham on Sunday because he was told to. The manager's Higginbottom's come out and said he was told to leave him out because it looks like Sheffield United be maybe looking to cash in for what looks like about £20 million for a 24-year-old. So he's a defensive midfielder. That's someone we've been linked with. Conor Gallagher has been linked. That's not a like-for-like swap for me. Shelvey for Conor Gallagher. He offers us something much further up the pitch. But again, it would be a central midfielder and one I would love to see. We've been linked with him before. I think he would be a player, revitalised by Eddie Howe. He's not doing great at Chelsea. He's getting more game time. He got in the England squad for the World Cup, which I was a little bit surprised at. But again, if we could get him on loan, I'd be very surprised if Chelsea would loan someone like that to the rivals in January with a couple of days left of the window. But then again, they have signed about 1 million players during this window on some kind of financial fair play. So is Eddie Howe looking for a replacement for Shelvey? We don't know yet. That's probably all going to happen in this next whirlwind of 24 hours once Shelvey's maybe confirmed. I've got no doubts about it. He will be keeping an eye. James Maddison keeps getting thrown in the mix, and honestly, like I said on my last Anthony Gordon video, who knows with Newcastle now? I expect the next 2 days before that huge game that I haven't even done a video on yet, that one of the biggest games of my life at St James's Park on Tuesday, where we're hopefully going to get to Wembley. So much could happen. You know, you're seeing things about James Maddison changing his Instagram profile picture from a Leicester one to an England one, following Newcastle players. People are trying to pluck conspiracies out of the air to suggest he's coming, but who knows, Newcastle fans? We have exciting transfer windows again. I remember in the Ashley days when we'd maybe pick up a loan player on the last day of the season, it would be someone shite. So expect more videos to come, expect more news to come, but it looks like Jonjo Shelvey might be leaving, and I just want to go on record and say thank you very much, Jonjo. Thank you for some great football, some great passes, some great goals, and for sticking around as well when we were relegated to the Championship. That goes a very long way. He was integral in getting us back up under Rafa Benitez. And I've got nothing but kind words, nice words to say about Mr. Jonjo Shelvey. And I wish him, along with Chris Wood, the best at Nottingham Forest if he is to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, Newcastle fans, on Jonjo Shelvey leaving. Do we need to replace him? Do you think we'll be okay in the midfield area now Gordon's come in? Or do you want to see someone else in that midfield area? And if so, let me know who. There's plenty of rumours going around. You might know something I don't. And if you've stuck around this long to watch this video, Newcastle fans, drop down, give us one of them. Whack that subscribe before that huge game on Tuesday. And I'll see you probably... What time is it? I'll probably see you in about 3 hours for another transfer video, because things keep coming thick and fast. So I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy the start to your week. How are the lads?